Acquiring new lands, the topic for today, still revolving around imperialism and the United States and territories that it is acquiring. Concepts for the day: was the United States contradictory in its signing of the Treaty of Paris? Why or why not? What type of imperialism policy did the United States have with China? And finally, was China accepting of foreign policies of other nations? Give an example of whether they were or were not. Vocabulary for today: protectorate. Check out the key word in the root word of protectorate. Open door policy, that has to do with China, and the Platt Amendment revolving around Cuba. Let's get started with the notes. And let's begin with the Treaty of Paris. This treaty was signed by the United States in Spain after the Spanish-American War, and the American, along with the Cuban victory, and along with millions of dollars, the United States, this is what gave the United States the territories of Puerto Rico, Guam, etc., etc. But each of these territories takes on its own look as far as what happens after the treaty is signed and what the United States ends up doing with the territory itself. So let's take a look at Puerto Rico first. Puerto Rico is occupied militarily by the United States, and it would seem to make sense that the United States would stay there, but after some court cases, Puerto Rico is going to gain its independence, which they wanted. But the United States is going to allow Puerto Ricans to have U.S. citizenship, although it does not give them statehood, and this is still true to this day. And there are some other differences, but we won't get into that right now. Our focus is on imperialism. The second country that we'll look at is Cuba. Now, we know that Cubans gained their independence, but it doesn't come easy. Initially, the United States, once more, is occupying the country militarily after the end of the Spanish-American War. And we actually refused to move our troops from the country until once the Cubans have made a constitution for themselves, freeing themselves, we require them to add what's called the Platt Amendment. And the Platt Amendment is essentially protecting United States interests. And we refuse to move our troops unless they accept the Platt Amendment. They finally do, and what this does basically shows that the United States, a stronger nation, has more control over Cuba, and this makes Cuba a protectorate of the United States. Okay? That's imperialism at work. The final country we'll take a look at is the Philippines. And in the Philippines, it is a very rough go. There's a war that lasts approximately 3 years. And the intriguing thing about this war is the United States, a country that was, on some level, people suggested we were fighting against the Spanish to free countries or other territories. Well, now we're basically taking on the Spanish role. We are the ones who are suppressing a revolt of people who are trying to gain their own freedom. And just like the Spanish fought against the Filipinos, now the United States is fighting against the Filipinos. The United States does put down the rebellion, but not before it costs a whole lot of money and lots of lives, more on the Filipino side. And the end result is that it does remain a territory of the United States until approximately 1946. The United States put themselves in a really good position to hopefully gain access to China by hanging on to the Philippines. And China is one of these countries that for centuries has really has been full of riches that European countries in particular have really tried to gain access to. And now they are. At least they have been. And the United States now wants to try and get a piece of the action as well. And that's what this graphic you see on the screen here is doing. The idea of where is getting your slice. The United States wants its slice of China, and they need to find a way to do this. So John Hay, who is U.S. Secretary of State, he writes a bunch of letters to these different European nations saying that we should allow every imperial power to have access to China. And by saying that, he's including the United States. And what it means is there's an open door policy, or no country is going to have entire control over the country of China. All countries have access to some of China's riches. That's what the open door policy is. Of course, by doing this, and all these imperial powers going over here, that China is experiencing a loss of freedom. They are, again, they're made out to be inferiors, while these different European nations are considering themselves superiors to China. So China rebels, and it takes the form of the Boxer Rebellion. And it lasts for about 2 months, and after 2 months it is put down. It doesn't achieve much more beyond that, except for the fact that the United States decides it's going to take a leading role in protecting all trading interests in China. And of course, by doing so, they're really protecting their own trading interests. What we find out about America during this time is that the United States firmly believes that getting access to resources in other countries and exporting goods to the United States is going to be extremely beneficial and extremely important to the survival of the United States. Whether that's right or wrong, that's up for debate, but that's what the United States really feels at this time. Okay? It has become an imperial power, and with this idea, there is going to be a wave of opposition against it. One of the main leading opposers of imperialism during the time is William Jennings Bryan, but he's going to be joined by others in the Anti-Imperialist League. They are going to fight this uphill battle of imperialism, as we see that the next couple of presidents, they also are believe in imperialism, and that it will help out the United States. See you next time.